Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, editor of Canadian Auto Dealer, and I'm here today with Todd Bourgon, the executive director of the Trillium Automobile Dealers Association, or TADA. Todd, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me today, Todd. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. And Rachel Bacon is the owner of JobGo Solutions. Hey, Rachel.
Hi, glad to be here.
Great. Well, the topic today is technicians, and more accurately, the shortage of technicians. It was bad before the pandemic, but it's really gotten worse ever since. So Todd, we'll start with you. How bad is it really for dealers out there?
It's bad. I think that's there's no candy coating this. Prior to the pandemic, we knew we had a challenge with fulfilling the back end of the shops, both on the mechanical side and then also on the body shop side. And we were hearing that from dealers for years, actually. And with the pandemic, we didn't know if it would correct itself, get worse or get better, but it actually got worse. A lot of people decided that they might take either early retirement or they weren't comfortable working in public settings. And people are still driving, obviously, cars and needing them repaired. So we're hearing from our dealer network that the problem didn't get any better. In fact, the shortage got a lot worse. And now we're faced with trying to help them and to come up with some solutions that will aid them in this dilemma.
Okay, well, you're obviously doing everything you can, and dealers are to recruit locally and try to get more people into the trades. But what are you doing? Tell us about this new program, this sort of foreign workers program, where you're actually looking at offshore talent. Tell us a bit about that.
Right. So as you know, for years we've been proponents of promoting our industry through traditional education sources and organically growing talent. And I think that we've been successful in some regards in doing that, but the reality is we just can't keep up with the demand. And the school systems haven't kept up with the demand. And right now, with a lot of the schools even being shut down for a year last year, they're even further behind now. So what we've done is that we've gone out and we've grown a program that we started prior to the pandemic, and that is to look for talent outside of Ontario, outside of Canada. And this talent is well trained, and we basically provide a service where we help source a recruiting program. And to do that and to speak to the details of that, Rachel is here. And Rachel has tons of experience in this, and we've developed a relationship and a partnership with her so that we can address this and help the dealers, not in 4 years from now, but like right now.
Okay, well, maybe that's a good segue over to Rachel. So, Rachel, thanks for joining us. I know you've been running these types of programs for a while, so tell us a bit about what goes on. I mean, I know there'll be a delegation going from Ontario to overseas, but tell us what goes on over there, and particularly like how you screen these technicians and make sure that they have the qualifications needed and that sort of thing. So, tell us about the nuts and bolts for dealers who might not be familiar with this program.
Yeah, if I may also talk about what makes us different and what makes us more successful in this venture is the fact that we do test them technically on site. So before even going, we put out advertising to get resumes for candidates that are qualified in the industry, in the dealership industry. Minimum 5 years experience is what we look for. Then they're vetted and we do like a first interview with the candidates, the ones that are going to be going on to the technical testing when we do make it abroad. And then from there, the technical testing is happening in a technical school. So we really have the equipment up to date, which is questions that we get asked a lot. What are they testing on? How are we going to be sure that they're going to be able to do the work once they get here? So it's up to date. Diagnostic. We do diagnostic testing. We do brake testing. We do different kinds of tests that we can do quickly, but that we can vet and assure that the candidates are who they say they are. Because we've had issues in the past where we've gotten resumes and the people were not what they were on paper. So that's what makes us stand out from other agencies and what guarantees a success once the candidate gets here.
Okay, so basically the steps are basically you recruit ahead of time. So you post ads saying, technicians wanted for Canada, people apply, you vet them, you check out their backgrounds, that sort of thing. But then you actually physically go to the country with the delegation.
Exactly.
And I think Todd is going to be part of that delegation, if I'm not mistaken. But so maybe describe a little bit of the technician trainer that you bring over there, if you will, to evaluate. Obviously, it's not going to be you making sure, or maybe it is, but that they're torquing things to the correct parameters, that sort of stuff. But tell us about who's overseeing the test, because if I was a dealer, I want to make sure that if I'm going to go through the effort of sponsoring someone to come here, that they're really they're up to snuff on the techno side. So
Yeah, we do have someone that comes along with us that's from the dealership background that has lots of experience on the technical end of it. And he will be overseeing all of the testing. And we also have from the technical school a professor, because we do have language barrier issues once we get there. And so we have someone from our team, also from our offices over there, that's overseeing. So we're multiple people are overseeing the technical testing part of it. And then they're graded. And at the end of the entire process, then we do a meeting, we regroup, and we categorize everybody, if you want, on their performance and where they would be a better fit, because not everybody has the same experience or the same type of qualifications. And so that's how we're able to better place the candidates in the dealers to make sure that it's a success going forward.
Okay, and it doesn't really stop there. Once a dealer decides to get involved in a program like this, and you find a candidate, they pass the test, then there's a fair bit of work, really, just paperwork and other things to get them to Canada, to set them up for success in a dealership. And the dealerships have a certain responsibility to look after some of those elements. Maybe talk about what happens if they do find a great source of talent and they're all set to come here. What can dealers expect sort of on the back end once the candidates do arrive?
Sure. So that's the fun part, I would say, of doing business with an agency, because if you were to do it yourself, you'd be overwhelmed. So we have like a legal side of it that's handled by a lawyer, that the dealer doesn't have to go through any of that or any of the issues. They just have to fill out a simple questionnaire, 2-page questionnaire. They send it in. And then from that, the lawyer does all the paperwork. There is an integration part that the dealerships have to go through once the candidate gets here, and it's making sure that they're integrating the worker into the workspace. It's not just putting someone there and just, well, good luck. You have to integrate them. You have to surround them, make sure that if there's any issues going on with co-workers or the work environment, that you're aware of it, and not 3 months later when it's too late. Also, we ask that the dealers support them in getting integrated into the communities, church, where's the grocery store, simple stuff. So we do a personal plan for each dealer depending on the location, because it changes from location to location. You can't do like a cookie template for everybody. It's got to be really, it's got to be individual to each dealer in the location. And so we do that, and then the dealer just follows this process with the worker. And we do ask that everybody follows through with the process, and we do keep in contact with everybody on a weekly basis to make sure that everything's going smoothly for the first 3 months that the worker is in the dealership.
In your experience, when somebody does sponsor a worker and you go through all of that, the effort to bring them to the country and such, are they, loyal to those employees? They typically have a high degree of loyalty to them for having, sponsored them and taken them through that process?
Yes, definitely. I would say very loyal and very humble for the help and the chance that they receive to come here. So this also, I have a lot of people asking, do they go on after the work permit? So they are coming here initially for a work permit of 36 months, but with the understanding that they do want to immigrate to Canada, and the success of them being here will ensure that they stay, and they can go on to ask for permanent residency and so on and so forth if the dealer is happy with their performance. So the integration, I would say, is really the success, making sure that it's not just, there's the vetting, there's making sure that the candidate is the right person for the job, but there's also after the fact, if the people having the worker come over are not ready to put the work in, then I would say this program is not for everybody.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. It's a great overview. Now, Todd, for you specifically, I know there's one delegation in the works going on. Can you maybe tell us a bit about that? I know you're not going to be testing torque settings over there either. You're good, but you are going to be going to the Philippines, I guess, is my understanding. And tell us a bit about what's that initial wave of activity, and maybe what else is planned in the months ahead.
Yeah, so we have certainly more than enough demand right now to what we call a mission to start our first mission. And we're really just waiting for the Philippine government to tell us that we don't have to sit in a hotel for 5 days at this point in quarantine. So once that is released, we're ready to go. And yes, you're absolutely right. I'm definitely not the one over there that's going to be checking people technically. However, having been to a couple of these, and in fact, ironically, we were in the middle of our first mission when the pandemic hit, and we were all basically told to go home. I have seen firsthand the benefit to being there and meeting the candidates, and for us to vet them in that format, because you get to know the personality of the individual when you spend 10, 12 hours with them. They're there a very long day. And you get to see people working under a bit of stress, obviously, because obviously they're performing and they want to impress, right? But I can certainly say that we were also very impressed with some of the candidates that we saw. I mean, I remember one gentleman had just come back from a month in Sweden where he was being trained by that OEM on electric vehicles and electrification. So, I mean, the talent pools in some of these other countries are quite rich. And it's it's the dynamic of what's going on in these countries where they see a better life for themselves here in Canada. So as far as the future holds, we believe, based on just the side conversations that I've had, I mean, quite frankly, we haven't even officially announced this program yet, and we have demand. People have been calling me and emailing me asking us if we'll restart this early because they have a need in their business. We right now have mentally budgeted between 4 and 5 missions next year. What time of year they go is going to depend on how quickly people want them here, and what sort of response we get when we announce the program officially. But certainly that's been the discussion Rachel and I have had, that we need enough capacity between our two organizations to do this 4 or 5 times next year in order for us to meet demand. And if there's higher demand, then we'll go more if we have to. But I do know, and I think everyone would agree, that this problem is not going to get any better on its own. And the longer that we wait in addressing it, the worse it's going to get, because there certainly is a timeline. You just don't fly overseas and then bring people home with you. There's a process, and I have spoken to a lot of dealers on my own that have tried to do this on their own and listened to some of the heartache that they've been through and the hardships that they've been through and some of the costs that they've been through. So I feel good that we have an organization that knows how to do this, that has done this. I've seen it. I've been on these trips myself, and we've been able to bring it into a cost perspective that's much more reasonable than what I heard when people were trying to do one-offs and two-offs on their own without any experience base. So that's kind of what the future holds for us.
Well, it's great. I mean, we have a definite need. I mean, Canada is a country of immigrants and immigration, and these are just potentially new Canadians that just don't know they're Canadians yet. As long as they've got the technical skills, it could be really great news for dealers throughout Ontario. And I applaud you both for this initiative. It sounds like a great one for our industry. Todd, one more question. If for dealers that say, "Hey, I'm interested in this," I know you haven't formally announced it yet, but they're going to have a ton of questions. Where do they go to get some of the answers?
So the first stop is, have no problem. They can reach out to me directly, and it's real simple. It's toddb@tada.ca. We're also in the process, as we literally speak right now, of putting up details up into our TADA.ca website. So dealers can go there, log in, and they'll start to find information on the program. But really, it starts with a conversation with myself and then Rachel, because we can only put so much in writing that describes the program. But to Rachel's point earlier, there really is a human element to this, and integrating these individuals into the business is what creates a success. And we want to make sure that we're bringing not just people that are qualified, but we also want to make sure that the businesses themselves are committed to ensuring that success and working towards that success. So those are the two best places to start the process, and we'll be putting out more information in the next couple of weeks on our social channels as well, that will go out direct to the dealers.
Well, certainly keep us in the loop when the delegation comes back. We'd love to hear more about it, and certainly when down the road when candidates start arriving here, we'd love to follow that story, follow that journey too, because it's going to be interesting to see the impact in the industry as people start to find their place. So, but for now, I appreciate you both for joining us. So Todd, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me.
And Rachel, thanks also for joining us and explaining the program.
Thanks, Todd. My pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Signing off.